Hey, good evening. This is Mark Gassert, bad voice and all, and a face for radio. I did a little baseball this weekend, but tonight we have a mystery guest with us, and I'll be right back. I'll bring in our mystery guest, but first I'll start with my cohort in crime. But let me get this thing rocking and rolling the right way, okay? Just stand by, everybody. Hey, I'm back. And with that, I'm going to bring in my cohort in crime. As you can see, the ASEA thing keeps popping up. Why is that? Redox molecules. Anyway, let me bring in Tom Ginn. Tom, how you doing?
Hey man, Mark, I'm doing great. You lost your voice, so I
Yeah.
hope we don't lose it tonight. But
No. I think I'm going to be good to go. But tell us, how was your weekend?
my weekend, I'm here in Wisconsin, so we haven't reached summer yet. So we had rain and cold weather, still rain today.
Right.
But I had one of those weekends where I got a lot of projects done with my wife and that type of thing. So it was productive, but still had my chill time. Kicking back and reading some
Tremendous.
books. Yeah, reading a book.
Tremendous. That's a good thing. Tom, I know you share with me this all the time from time to time because we talk on Monday mornings. I know you don't have a TV, which I think is tremendous because there's so much junk on it. There are good things, but I think it's neat you have the discipline not to have a TV, which forces one to read and do other things. So the Gassert household has finished up their flooring project. I'll have to share that with our mystery guest. And then on top of that, I did 7 games Saturday, and then finished it out with 3 games yesterday. So it was pretty intense, and they want me to come back. So I guess I'm doing something right. Hey, without further ado, before I bring out this mystery guest, you have to understand this man knows radio, right? That's his roots. He knows sales and marketing. That's his roots. He knows real estate. He's wheeling and dealing in that. You will see him rant from time to time. So I kiddingly say this is kind of like the Geezer show because you've got Gassert, Ginn, Galvin, and here he is. I'm going to bring him on. Tom, what's up, man? Talk to us.
Gentlemen, nice to see you again. This is my third run with you guys. My third tour.
I don't know what's going on with that.
We need it.
I think that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
We brought you on, man.
Sure,
you know that is comes from radio.
We always have a good time, the three of us, and I think we end up 180 degrees away from what our original topic is. But who cares? We have a good time, and all three of us learn something from one another, right?
Look at that. We got our man out here, Mr. Randy Chafee, building wins. I mean, that guy is like taking off like a lightning bolt, man. He's awesome. Randy, you do a tremendous job. Thank you very much. Always enjoy listening, although I can't always listen like I'd like to because I'm out there wheeling, dealing, dialing, and smiling, doing all that fun stuff. And here we got another gentleman right here, Mr. Legal, the Legal Beagle, as I call him.
Hello, Ted.
And Ted, my man, Ted. Yes. Ted caught me at my birthday celebration. I won't tell a lie. I did have a beer. I had one beer. That was my celebration. June 2nd. Yours truly turned 66. I know Tom probably wishes he could go back to 66, but Tom looks in tremendous condition. And I've seen some changes as he's doing things for his health, nutrition. You don't look so bad yourself, Tom Gavin. You look tremendous.
I have a young lady that takes good care of me. It's 20 years my junior, so she.
Oh wow.
She makes sure that
that's awesome.
The refrigerator is stocked properly, and I'm eating right. And I used to be a train wreck in my single days with no significant other. So she takes good care of me.
That is awesome.
Very blessed, yes.
Guys, before we get into the thick of things, I have a thing called a hit list, and nobody really knows about this. I shared it with Tom uh, Tom Ginn behind the back, and while you were in the green room eating whatever bonbons and drinking cola or whatever you did back there, Tom Gavin, I don't know, you know, just having a blast.
If I have any vice at all, it's coffee.
Okay,
and
well,
that's a habit from the radio days.
I hear you. I totally
getting
understand.
Up at 3:30 in the morning. I mean, that was my beverage of choice and has been.
Yes. You know, those of us that observe, that became my beverage of choice, and it stuck. Yep. I don't know what happened. I went in the Army and I wasn't really a coffee drinker, but guess what happened? Get up at weird hours and times, right? But anyway, I do have this hit list, and I'm going to read this out. Now, if you ever seen the movie The Mechanic, now I'm not going to threaten you with your life, guys, but there are some people out here that we need you back, and some of them have never been on Elevate Your Profits, and I'm going to allow Tom to elaborate, but Elevate Your Profits is not just talking about dollars and cents. It's what you're doing out there in the marketplace, your life, with your family, your friends, you know, your community. You could be a go-giver. That's elevating your profits. You can be doing a lot of different things. It's not always about monetizing, you know, it's what you're giving back to. So, Jay Jensen, if you're listening to this or get the replay, I'm calling you out. We want you back. Mr. Kent Walker, brother of Blue, right? There's a book this man's written, you know, it's called Umpire Mentors. Kent, do not be afraid. Come on, man. We want you in here because I'm going to read from your Bible, Umpire Mentors, that is applicable even in the marketplace. Some of the things we're going to talk about. I know, Tom Gavin, I think you've purchased this manuscript, have you not?
I have. In fact, I was just looking it up on my Kindle. I've probably haven't looked at it in a week, but maybe about a third of the way. Umpire Mentors. Yeah, here. Umpire Mentors.
Pretty cool stuff. Ken, come on. We want to talk to you, not just about umpiring, but what you do in the real world out there. And my main man, Paul the Mikrito, right? My Orthodox Greek brother. And if you don't know who he is, there is a book out there called Closers 3, right? And there's Paul's name down there.
There you go.
There's a certain other gentleman that he knows as well as we know, the disciple, I call him, of Napoleon Hill, Dr. Hill, and BFG3. We want you to come back too. We're calling you out. We want you to come back. And one of the things I'm going to tease Paul about is sell me this pen. And if you ever go to one of his YouTube channels, he talks about that. He does the Jordan Belfort sell me this pen shtick. It's kind of cool. You need to go check it out. And here's one of my latest additions. This gentleman's called the Sales Evangelist. Donald Kelly, I'm calling you out. You've written a book, Sell It Like a Mango. We'd love for you to come on here and talk to us. He's from Jamaica, and he talks about being a street cart vendor and everybody's selling the mango. So how do you differentiate yourself to the competition and bring in value? So I would love to hear that. Very astute gentleman. He has his own podcast, does a great job. And last but not least, Mr. David Hoffield, The Science of Selling. There's another gentleman here we need to get on here, Tom, because he's written a book called The Science of Selling. He just finished up a book, Sell More with Science. David's a real unique individual. You need to hear him speak. He does a great job. So those gentlemen that I just called out, you're on my hit list. So look out. I'm coming for you. We're going to interact. We're going to engage. You know, we're going to, you know, enable. We're going to do things. I'm not going to point and click my way to get to you, but somehow, some way, we're going to make this happen. With all that said, since you're a mystery guest, Tom, you've been in radio. Talk to us about when things don't go according to plan, the plan A that you have for the day. We all make plans. And then all of a sudden, you've been in radio. The DJ, he got wasted last night at a party or whatever, and he can't make it for the 6 a.m. show or 5 a.m. show. I know this never happened to you. And then, bam, you get asked to come in. What do you deal? How do you deal with that?
I was on the air. I was actually in the business for 13 years in medium and major market stations, and then I had another 6 years in small market in terms of being an investor in a number of small market stations. And you see almost everything. I also brokered DJs and bands in the DC, Maryland area for another 15, 20 years after that. So you've seen a little bit about of everything. Sometimes you can, with some of the characters that I encountered over the years, just like any other industry, you've got your people that seem to live their life on the straight and narrow, and then some other people that tend to make mistakes along the way. And but we all need, I mean, just like the labor situation in many industries in this country, for as far as events and parties, I needed bodies to be able to perform at these events. And then you needed somebody to do the 6 to 10 air shift on the air on weekday mornings or Saturday mornings. And sometimes you can smell a problem in advance. And I tried to be the guy that would get right next and close with all of my staff to hear their problems and understand what their challenges were, and to try to help them and make recommendations often in how they could improve their lives. And, most would take me up on some of the advice and the encouragement and the suggestions. And just like in life in any industry, every now and then, I would hate to ever give up on people. I was proud to be able to say and I can think of a number of specific people that you wouldn't certainly recognize if I named them, but I felt like I turned them around because of my belief in them and my constantly, almost like mentoring or being a big brother.
Right.
You can't give up, because you need a staff. You need, and once some of these fellows, once I got them to the gig, they were fine. But it's just, I've lost count how many times on Saturday mornings I would knock on people's doors just to make sure, A, that they were alive, B, that they were awake, and C, I said, I want to see both feet on the floor before I leave. And most of the time, and if I could get them that far, I could get them to the event or get them to the air shift. And it's just you do what you got to do. I was in my 20s back then. I didn't know anything about how to do. I just knew what my gut told me to do. Right. We can't fail at this. This has to get done. And I saw Top Gun, the Maverick, the other day.
Yes.
This thought just came to me. There are a number of scenes in that movie where, those guys, they just, they were pressure under fire. They were pressed. It was certainly not plan A, plan B, or plan C with a few of those moments. And you just do what you got to do to get the job done. And that's in so many cases in life, maybe not as extreme some of the examples in the movie, but you can't take no for an answer. And in so many people in today's world, I believe, just want to pack up their tents and go home and just throw in the towel. I mean, half the fun is is overcoming the challenge and being able to say later, like, I did it. We got this done.
Right. You were in radio, and the one story I know Tom and I talked about, Les Brown. I actually got to hear Les, I won't say how many years ago, but he was young and vibrant. And he talks about, I think the guy's name was Rock and Rod or something like that. Yeah. And Les was in there mopping and sweeping and running errands and doing what he had to do. And he was like, a lion in a cage, and he kept watching this guy, and he was getting drunker and drunker on the air. And he was like looking at this saying, this is my opportunity. Right. And it came to pass where the GM called up and said, Les, could you help Rod out? And he goes, well, yeah, we just want you to play pre-programmed. That's not what he did, man. He got on there and
good for him.
Started spieling off like, I'm your platter playing Papa, blah, blah, blah. Right. That's when you actually had, vinyl and all that other fun stuff. But
what is vinyl? What?
Yeah. I know. But Les got in there, and the rest is history. The guy can really speak well, and I really enjoyed listening to his story. And he always his mantra is, you got to be hungry. Excuse my voice, but he stresses that. And the other thing I think that we sometimes forget, it's great setting dreams and goals and having all these things written out. But the one thing that, I know people hate hearing about is that word discipline. And I know Tom's a coach, and I'm sure you've gone through things, Tom, in your day, from coaching, from when you did finance, whatever it
Yeah.
is. We all hit the wall where maybe appointment doesn't show up, or your presentation doesn't come across the way it should. You don't feel like you engaged, you had, a conversation of any type of value. And I think we've all been where you see someone doing this, and at the day back in the day that was a watch. Now you got all these iPhone watches, but and when you see that, it was like a telltale sign, like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble here. Or they start looking up at the ceiling, or you know
you have to rise to the moment, rise to the occasion, and seize the moment, and just not look back. I tell people that I mentor and work with, one in particular right now, I tell you don't look over your shoulder. Doesn't matter what's happened in the past, you're looking forward. What changes are you going to make going forward? Because we can have a pity party all day long. And yes, I tell people, learn from your mistakes in the past, but don't feel sorry for yourself and don't dwell on them. Let's go.
Right.
How are you going to improve the person you are today?
I do want to give a shout out to Charles. Charles, I enjoyed your program yesterday, and if you ever get a chance, he's on every day, but particularly because it was Sunday, and I do listen to a lot of those type of podcasts, even virtually. If I don't go to church, I'll listen. But yesterday, he had a pretty cool program. You and Lana did a great job. Just want to say thank you again for hopping on here tonight as well.
Yeah, and I think he's spreading probably the most important word that we
yes.
have there.
Yeah, and that is so true, Tom. And that leads me to this, Tom and Tom. The three things I think that get in, particularly us men, and I'm going to say it. The first one is ego.
You think?
God, yeah, we allow that thing called ego to get in our way. We think we got it, we know it. And then the other thing I think that feeds off of that, I was writing stuff down. Like you, I write things. I don't know what I'm writing here, but I write.
Right. Yeah. Got
Make
my
notes
journal right here.
Yeah,
right here,
I know.
Right here,
I hear you.
Right here.
Well, I struggle with that every day. Like, what are you writing, Gasser? Is this making sense? And then status.
It's a piece of your life. It's a recording of your life.
I think when my kids look at this, they're going to say, what the heck was Dad thinking about? Or status. I have a question mark. That's a big one. Sometimes, the ego, and then into the status thing of, well, I live in this neighborhood. I drive this car. I work at this company. I'm of this faith. I could go on, and I'll say it because I am of the Orthodox persuasion. Sometimes they have a tendency to do that because it's the ancient faith. I'll get off religion or political infrastructure. I won't even go there. There's a lot of things happening out there in the real world. And then the one thing that guys won't do, and Bill Russell talks about this in his book, and he lists branding and teamwork. The one thing he stressed and why he won 11 championships, it just blew me away. Joy in your heart. Perform with joy in your heart. And if you'll do that, that'll take care of the rest of it. Be prepared and all that. But I think sometimes we just go through the humdrum of things. And you guys know I do get on this thing called it's a telephone here. It's not an iPhone. And I got to do that. And it's really kind of funny when I talk to people on Mondays, because Tom and I spoke earlier this morning, and I always like my first call. Say, hey, Tom, it's a magnificent Monday, man. This is Mark Gassard, and I know you've been dying to talk to me today. And they're like, who the hell is this?
Right.
But, you just got to have fun with it. They don't know me. I don't know them. And, I do know who they are. And I explain, hey, here's why I'm calling. But it's just so funny. We get into that like status quo, we become robotic. And I hate myself when I do it. I catch myself like, man, you got to lighten up. Taking ourselves too seriously. Tom and I talked about that earlier today too. I just think people have a tendency to, like it becomes that status thing. Like I got it. I got this. I got that. No, you don't. Nobody has it. It's we learn from one another. Like I learn a lot from Charles. What he was talking about, and he's throwing up something else here. What is it?
Well, there's
Charles?
a guy. Speaking of what he does with the Bible readings
Right.
in the early morning. I mean, if you want to. I do not want to get into a music contest with Charles Coachman because I'm going to get my clock cleaned every single time.
Yeah.
That dude knows his music.
Yeah, I think he would even challenge the Jay Fox as well,
Right. Right.
So,
But I worked for a program director in Rochester, New York for 3 years, and he used to say, "What's the reason people turn the radio on?" And we're all given wrong answers. And his philosophy was people turn the radio on to escape their troubles and makes them feel good. And I thought, that is probably the most definitive answer that there is. It's an escape, and they're able to leave their troubles on on the dial or up the dial, and they're able to escape to entertainment and relax their mind.
And I'm kind of envious. And Tom Ginn had the privilege and honor of meeting the late, great Bob Proctor. And, I know one of the things, stop apologizing, don't apologize.
Right.
If you're bringing something of value, Bob Proctor, man, is an awesome dude. I mean, and to me still is. He's still out there. He's living through a lot of different people that took his program and platform.
I saw one of his Instagrams, as a matter of fact, just yesterday. I mean, he popped up on my feed.
John Maxwell does something daily, which I listen to, which he's a disciple of Bob Proctor. So, I mean, Tom, you could elaborate on that as well as to Bob Proctor's teachings. But he used to hold people's feet to the fire, I know.
I just want to, say, hey, Tom, thanks for jumping on the last minute today. When Mark says we got a mystery guest, I said, "Oh my God, where are we going to go with this?" In the old days, I would have reacted. "Oh my gosh!" Just life gives you. You just respond, you just flow with it.
Who do we know, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Who do we know that can do this?
Yeah, but I just want to say, go back. I want to have some dialogue here because it's all about elevate your profit. Profits is nothing more than creating a quality of life for yourself. That's the way I look at it. Your relationships, everything we do is how do we do that? And, Mark, you mentioned something here a little bit ago, and I'm going to ask this question to everybody. Maybe we can jump in a little bit. And dealing with, I'll share mine here in a moment, but I'll ask the question and you guys can jump in if you want. What was the most, you talked about ego, Mark. And many times the ego is a thing, and ego has two sides to it. It's the creative side or the destructive side of ego. But us men in particular have really big egos, and we want to be the biggest thing in the room. We want to be right all the time, and we got all the answers, and we could just go on and on about that.
Right.
But what was, and I'll share my story, but the question is this. What was the first thing that came in your life, maybe a challenge, a disappointment, an awakening that challenged your ego and shifted you to evaluate your ego and change mine? I'll share mine first, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I was nearly 30 years in the financial service arena. When I started out, I didn't know nothing. I was a 30-year-old guy. Cocky, egotistical. I had some great mentors and coaching, didn't recognize what was going on. I thought it was all about me and how I got to number one in the company and all that. And then I became a vice president of the company. So then my ego got real big, man. I have made it. I got the title. I'm a high school guy, a couple of years of college, but man, I'm kicking butt on all these guys that got PhDs in finance. And so my chest was poofed out. But then life throws you curveballs, right? And I had opened up an office in California out in the San Joaquin Valley, just south of Sacramento, in a little town called Manteco. And I made some poor decisions. I made some business decisions expanding my operation quicker than I should have, and so on and so forth. And it put me in a bind financially. So I lived fake until you make it a lot too. So I had my big Mercury 4-door boat.
Right.
That's back in the day where Cadillacs and Mercury, back in the early 80s, right? And so I got myself in a pickle, struggling, trying to find Rob Paul to pay Pete and all those guys. Then I woke up one morning. I knew I had I was behind on my car payment. So I knew that they were out trying to repo my car.
Repo.
True story.
I always see those guys in those suits running around like, hey, there he is.
So I did one of these things for about 2 months. I would park my car different blocks and walk to my house. Of course, they probably saw me walking and backtracked me in the morning. So I didn't outpoint them. Sure. So those guys are pretty. So I got my car repoed. Now, that was...
You're not the only one there. And I'm not one of my most embarrassing moments of my life, but go on with your story.
Oh my
goodness. But see, here I was, with this false ego, false facade, false things about success. I still held some things that were successful. I was out there, still didn't fold up shop.
Right.
But so I had to go and borrow $300. Listen to this, from my sister to buy a used Pinto. Imagine this.
Oh my God, I remember those Pintos.
No, it was my first car.
I don't know how safe they were. I don't know if Ralph...
Didn't matter. I was 18 and needed transportation.
And so it was one of those things where in the beginning I would go to an appointment, I'd park my Pinto down the block and then walk to the house. And one of my good friends in life, who was a real estate broker in California, he had one of the biggest real estate brokerage in the Bay Area.
Right.
And he gave me a lead to a guy. He says, hey, you got to go see this guy. He lives out in Modesto, California. And he's a multimillionaire. He's got 3 businesses. He was the thing would just sort of go, oh my God, who is this guy? So he says, Here he is. I scheduled the appointment, and I'm thinking I'm going to go to a residential area. So I'm driving out these country roads in the valley, and I'm going down, and oh my God, his house is way back off the road, a big long drive going in. And he's out on the street at the mailbox waiting for me. Because, finding these places in a rural area is pretty tough. So I drove by. What the heck do I do? In this beat up Pinto, smoking out the back, making all sorts of noises. And here I'm going to go to a multimillionaires, guys. And so I went up the road, and this was an awakening. Tom, it's now or never.
Mm-hmm.
I could have called up and says, hey, listen, something came up, but I turned around, drove back. He's still at the mailbox. I pulled up, say, I'm Tom again. We got the appointment tonight. He says, come on. He gets in my car, and we drive about 3/4 of a mile in.
Right.
And here I am, an investment advisor, driving up in a rat trap. And I get into the house, and this guy was just so nice, so accepting. And guess what? He let me do my presentation, went through this entire thing. I did. But that was the most humbling thing. And guess what I walked away with? $1 million security sale.
I was going to say, hopefully after all that in order.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And to this day, that was probably the most humbling thing. It has nothing to do with image, what you think you look like, and all those type of things. I humbled myself out of my ego and just went being authentic. And I think that's really important. How many of us, because I almost turned around and left and was going to call and say, listen, something came up, emergency. And I was going to borrow somebody's car to drive back out there. But, that was back in 84, 85. Took this big ego, had to face myself in reality, and humbled myself. So that was my big story about adjusting my ego to reality.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, since you talk Pinto, Randy Chafee, I had a Pinto in the day. My 16-year-old son at the time ran into the back of a school bus. So there you go. Thanks for sharing that, Randy. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Randy, for jumping on. So, what was your biggest thing that challenged your ego and had you what I would call the wake up and being humbled?
I guess I was, and there have been a number of times, and as I'm sure all three of us can share a number of experiences, but I was, because of the topic that we sort of focus on when I come on here is because of my broadcast experience. I was my first full-time disc jockey job. I was in Orange, Massachusetts. I was at an AM daytimer, and the call letters were WCAT. And they were, I know. I could never figure out. Well, I think it had something to do with the original owner's wife's initials or something.
Okay.
But I think was barely 18, graduate of high school, going to part-time classes at University of Massachusetts in Amherst, 45 minutes away. And because it was a daytime station, they would sign off at different times of the year. This time of the year, because when the sunlight or the daylight stays so late, sunset, that wouldn't be till maybe 7:30, 8 o'clock. You'd be on the air till then. I was in the afternoon show, came on about 3, and would stay on until we signed the station off. I had the ego the size of the moon. I was working at 3 of these little small town stations. One of them was a top 40 station. I thought I was the biggest boss jock in the world. And one day,
the Wolfman Jack.
Oh, I mean, I was living the dream, and really would know at this one particular station, it seemed like the owner didn't care what we did on the air as long as he made a profit every month. He just left us alone. And one of the greatest salesmen I've ever seen, may he rest in peace. And he gave me an opportunity. Jack Healy was his name, in Brattleboro, Vermont. But I'm at the station during the week in Orange, Massachusetts, and the fellow that ran, his name was Terry Boone. And he brought me in his office one day, and he said, the owner doesn't really think you're exactly what we're looking for here. I mean, because it was a middle of the road, full service, a lot of emphasis on news and information,
right?
And I didn't want any of this. I wanted to be playing Steely Dan and and just trying to think of.
Now we're really dating ourselves.
Right,
Steely Dan.
I mean, I wanted, but he says, listen, I like you. I was doing some sales for him at the time, not very successfully, but I had, he gave me a rate card, and Terry tried to, one of the early mentors of how to sell, but he sat me down and he said, we're pulling you off the air because we have a chance to hire a guy that can be, we didn't have a full-time engineer on site. We shared an engineer with 3 other stations that the owner of the station owned. And he says, I got a chance to get a guy that can come in and fix everything and update everything, but I can't afford to pay him based on what the station was doing billing wise. So I got to take what I'm paying you to be able to pay him. And the owner doesn't think you're what we're looking for anyway. Well, that hit me right in the kneecaps in terms of, right, like Tom said, my ego. I just thought, no, I know it all. Nobody can teach me anything. And it was a major wake-up call. Essentially, Terry Boone said to me, Tom, you're not as good as you think you are. And I've been telling you this for 6 months. Well, now somebody else is not only telling you this, but we're taking action to sit you down. Now we're going to be, when we're on the air in the later daylight months of the year, like, May, June, July, August, we didn't sign off, I think, until 9 o'clock in June and July. You're going to come on at 6 and just stay until we sign the station off. That was the moment that made me turn around and say, listen, I better start listening to the people that are really trying to help me. They're trying to help me, and just shut up and listen. And that was, and there have been others, but the way that Tom told that story, that instant story about that radio station in Orange, Massachusetts, came right. I mean, there have been others, but that hit me between the eyes.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing. You many times we look here and we do have everybody that's had success has also had some pretty significant crashes with the ground, or crashed and burned, whatever. So thanks for sharing.
That was awesome.
But I think it's like my father used to say, it's how do you respond to them? are you going to say, get up and start blaming somebody? Because I've been blaming everybody else prior to that. What do they know?
Yeah.
I'm mega talent. I've got, I'm going to the top. I mean, as far as confidence and ability, that's great. But I didn't have the skills because I hadn't taken the time to align myself with someone that could teach me the skills. And I, unfortunately, to look back now, had I worked for a couple of station owners that really took an interest in developing the talent that they had right under the roof, perhaps I would have gotten further in the business. But you know what? I ended up in sales and sales management and small market station ownership on an equity deal. And then today I'm with a lovely young lady and doing real estate, and couldn't be at a better spot in my life. But that was a moment that hit me between the eyes of, look in the mirror, Gavin, you're not as good as you think you are.
Yeah. Awesome. Ted Legal shared this. Wolfman Jack, as big as life. I met him when he was 7, went through his father, who was a Midwest regional advertising manager for J.C. Penney at the time. So we got to meet a lot of celebrities. His radio presence was amazing, and I'm sure it was.
He was, yeah. And back in those days, I mean, those guys, they used the talent to merchandise the radio station to get some of those big advertising buys, because they would use the on-air personalities, the popular guys, to either endorse the products or actually put them in the stores and do promotions.
Right. Could you see that happening today? I mean, I'm teasing.
Yeah, I mean, does anybody really know personalities on local radio anymore? You know what? Where the personalities are is on sports radio, sports talk radio.
Yeah, yes, that's a biggie.
And not just the Fan in New York, though that was the one everybody, WFAN, if it wasn't the largest billing radio station in the country in the last 2 years, it's certainly one of the top 3. But news talk stations in major markets tend to have more of a personality profile where you know what the host names are. But you really, unless you're a faithful listener of top 40 or country, I mean, maybe country might be more of a loyal audience, but the industry definitely has taken a kick in the shins because of not just the satellite radio, but the number of ways music and entertainment is delivered to us today, with the Pandoras and the Siriuses and podcasts. I mean, how many podcasts do you listen to? Podcasts replaced, to a small extent or a major extent, depending on your point of view, talk radio.
Right. That's true. That's true. Very true, Tom. There's some amazing podcasts out there.
My problem is trying to find the time to listen to them all.
Right.
So Damaris and I have, on Saturday mornings, we've got 2 or 3 of our favorites. And on Sunday mornings, we have a couple of our favorites, mostly to do with real estate. And but there's a wealth of information with these, and it's right at our fingertips. How do you compete with that if you're a radio station? You've got to have something darn good and a big reason to listen.
Right. That's awesome.
Hey, Mark, what was your big ego buster?
Oh, man. Well, I'm going to go back 11 years ago, and you guys talked about cars. This is embarrassing, but I'm going to come clean. On the verge of losing my house. Okay. Had a very good job at one time, and our economy kind of went south. So we were making cuts. I happened to be of a certain age. Who would ever thought when you turn like mid 50s, you're old, it's time to move on. So that's kind of what happened.
Well, who isn't in his mid 50s on here? That's what I want to know.
Anyway, 11 years ago, it was pretty dramatic because my kids were a little bit younger. It put me in a situation where I couldn't always do things for my guys the way I would have liked to, because they were used to a certain way. Now we're tightening the belt. I had to go out and sell lawn care. And I will share you a true story. I had no earthly idea. Being in the hospitality arena is a little bit different sale from knocking on doors, cold calling. If you think you're good at sales, go knock on doors and or pick up the phone, and let's see how good you really are. And I struggle with it even today. I don't feel like I'm the best. And that's why I always listen to other people and, just learn from them. What happened to me through, a guy like a Jay Jensen sat me down. He had been doing this for 10 years
Right.
and he made it look so easy. And he said, sit down here. I'm going to help you out a little bit. Let's get a script. I was laughing. He said, actors have scripts. We're going to develop a script.
Role
You're going to
play,
memorize the script. And I started laughing. And who teaches that is BFG3, Benjamin Franklin Gay, still teaches the importance of script. Not that you throw it out, but you actually become the script. And that's what actors do. You mentioned Tom Cruise. Guess what? They all had a script.
Right.
They had to read it and then they become it. What happened to me, I guess through dumb luck, we went to a house, like there are yards. Well, this particular house was out in the country and we had to go find it. Not was it a yard, it was acres. Now I'm selling lawn care. This guy told me it takes me a week to do his, cut the grass or the yard. Yeah, whatever. And then he had needed treatments for his shrubs, trees, and bushes. And I'm sitting there, and my head's spinning. And the guy that was with me said, "Okay, man, just get out your book," because we had to. That was the old. You write up the order. Okay, so what do you really want, sir? Because that's why Mark's here. He's going to help you through this process. And it was hilarious. I came back with an outrageous order because it was acres. And I could not believe it. I won't mention the company. Well, yeah, it was True Green at the time. So
right.
It was cool, and but it was humiliating for me because I wasn't, like Tom said, I wasn't driving a great car, and then I got all this pressure about the house, and and my grandfather always used to say this, that a lot of your problems you create yourself, because I was living beyond my means and didn't know it. And a lot of things my dad told me happened to me. It was like he was a prophet. And then I realized he knew what I was going to go through and what happened, because it's happened to him. Every now and then there would be I didn't ask, but all of a sudden he'd ask me how I'm doing. And every now and then, or he'd shake my hand, and, there'd always be a few dollar bills in there. So but that was embarrassing for me because, losing your house is pretty serious stuff.
Yeah.
I don't like thinking about it. I may not talk about it, but I know what I felt like then, and the pressure is tremendous. So I do have compassion for people that lose work. And, it is a little bit easier, I think, now because all the tools we have. If I would have had all this stuff 11 years ago, who knows? But it is what it is, and you just learn to improvise, adapt, and overcome. And that's kind of been my mantra, because there's other things that are awaiting all of us. We're going to have to deal with. And I think the things that both you guys talked about, how do you handle it? There's a right and wrong way to handle it. Which leads me into my segue of umpiring. How do you handle abuse? How do you handle, other umpires that you work alongside of? And there's a couple things I highlighted here, and you're going to laugh when I read these to you, but it's not just about umpiring, but it said, avoid sarcasm. Don't insist on the last word. Think about that one.
Good point.
When you're engaging, review your work. You will find, if you're honest, that 90% of the trouble is traceable to loafing. And what they're saying here, and to me, that means you're not coming clean and putting in the work, to get to where you want to get to. And this is the all-time favorite for anybody that's a coworker, parent,
right,
brother, sister. No matter what your opinion of another umpire, never make an adverse comment regarding him. To do so is despicable and ungentlemanly. Another one, keep your temper. A decision made in anger is never sound. And I picked and highlighted a couple. This was written in 1949. Ford Frick, National League president.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And that to me blew me back, and it just kind of made me think about things like, our society would be so much better if people would treat one another with dignity and respect. Even if someone calls you on the phone, you don't have to be so foul about it. Maybe they're disrupting your day, or you're talking to someone about a business opportunity. You don't have to be so nasty about it. At least give them the latitude and listen to what they have to say. And I think we've gotten beyond this point where we want to chastise and ridicule those that choose to not be average and want to move a little bit further, elevate themselves, personal development, financial growth. And I don't know why that is. I applaud it. I think it's great. But I don't know what your take on that is, Tom. Go ahead.
I'll just plant the seed. Our ego gets in the way, and we don't anticipate that we could crash and burn, right? And we don't have a plan B, those type of things. And through life, I've learned this, and I've had great mentors. And now I just want to give back and teach what woke me up and those type of things, and share those. We're in tough times right now. There's no doubt about it. Right now, a lot of things are totally uncertain. And I believe I did a talk today on Rex Sykes in chapter 2, and the misconception about motivation. Most people only get motivated when they crash and burn. That was my story. Then I changed, right?
Right.
Why don't we work proactively and be motivated by change, take action? The action is in a different direction, is the motivator. And so I did a lesson. It was kind of interesting how that all worked that day, having a mystery guest and not knowing what we're going to talk about. But
and the mystery guest is reading both of the books you guys have held up tonight. How cool is that?
I'm telling you, man, this is scary stuff.
This is getting creepy. That's what I want to say.
Where I read this, and this is, I don't mean to steal from Tom, but Kent Walker, can you see this? I'm holding this up. We really do want you to come on and talk to us about your book. We really do want you to come on here and talk to us about, not just umpiring, but other things. I know you're a good guy, and I would welcome some dialogue with you, so reach out to me, please, because I'm going to send this link to you direct. So you see that we are talking about you, and this is really a good book. Umpire Mentors. There's like from 100 of the best baseball umpire mentors in the world, and it's not all men. There are females in here. It's not all professional. There are high school people in here. So it's kind of a cool book. I'm sorry, Tom, I digressed. But go on.
No problem, Mark. Great stuff. Great stuff. We're like I say, we're in tough times. We crashed and burned. Some things out of our control, but we didn't have another plan. Worst case scenario, I've been in business consulting. Most families and individuals don't have a disaster plan.
Right.
What would happen if I lost my job or couldn't work? Don't have reserves. And most small businesses don't have a disaster plan. They don't think long term. They say, well, I can get by maybe 2 months or 3 months if something doesn't go upside. So I've crashed and burned in several businesses personally as well. I've learned one thing. I never want to make those mistakes again. I've set my life up with options, plan Bs. So worst case scenario, what are you doing, Tom, or plan on doing to have a plan B if everything falls apart?
My plan,
control.
I follow Ryan Serhant, the real estate agent on $1 Million Listing, and I'm following his philosophy because he got into the real estate business in New York City when the real estate market crashed in 2007, 2008, and he said he was actually thankful as he started to grow his business because the real estate market, he didn't feel it could go any lower, and that because of his examples of hard work, perseverance, determination, and literally in the toughest real estate market maybe on the planet, New York City, he was able to, and he really didn't know any better. He just went out and started making calls and started talking to people. And just because of his example, I was brought into the business with a person 20 years my junior, but she had been doing it for a dozen years. And I'd worked for a number of stations and radio stations, and I kid around. I said I work for stations with no listeners, and you've got to be able to come up with reasons and offers to sell advertising. And
Right.
most of my success has been on because of threesomes like this, where you built network connections and you've listened to people's troubles and you're trying to help them solve a particular obstruction or barrier or challenge in their life, and look like the good guy because nobody else will. I like to think of the three of us as part of the 1% out there that shows up early and is willing to stay late and is going to do whatever it can to benefit the customer because of our years of experience behind us. I know we kid about our ages, but we've seen firsthand that by giving more first, we reap much more later. And it works in my life almost every single day.
That's one thing Bob Proctor taught is give more than your expected pay.
Yes.
Right.
Give more. And it comes back in more ways than you know. Too many people, I see it. I got to get the money today. I'm going to do the bare minimum to get it. I'm like,
right.
I talked to somebody like that yesterday. And I tried to turn him around and say, have you considered looking at this? And he just said, no. He says, I'm not a capitalist. I don't believe in capitalism. And I'm thinking, I don't want to be rude, but you and I are done. All right. And as soon as I can exit this conversation in a polite way, because I reached a point where I just said I can't help this man.
Right. You know, Charles, when we were talking earlier, he said, we're out there keeping up with the Joneses and they don't exist. And that is so true. There are some people that are into that. Here, Ted said, those principles should be principles of life every day. And I didn't know this. Here, look at Charles, man. He goes, I umpired many years and made several trips. Cool to learn from some of the best umpires in Little League Baseball. Yeah. And that's kind of how I started out. I learned from those older gentlemen. That this one guy that taught me was a minor league umpire. It was awesome. I got an experience. But one of the things I wanted to share on my birthday, which was June 2nd.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Young man.
Yeah, I know, man. I feel young. Yeah, absolutely. I'm young, man. Anyway, I got a phone call from a customer. This is true. Now, he's a paying customer, and he didn't have to do this. And he was in Europe on one of their business trips. It was an incentive trip.
Right.
His first name's Danny. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to get into his company and what he does and all that. But
no shameless plugs.
No, I won't do that. But maybe we ought to have him on Elevate Your Profits sometime.
Absolutely. Sounds like he has a story to tell.
He does because he's a VP of sales and marketing without a college diploma. He is now going back and getting that degree. And I asked him, what's that like now that you're going to school? So when these professors see what his title is, they're teaching him the theories, and, he's out there doing it. So he said it's kind of interesting, to actually do it, because what he's done would never happen today. You know how all that works. But I think Danny in a couple of years will probably retire anyway, because he wants to live out in the woods and build his cabin, and he's doing great. He's a great guy, good friend. But he said, happy birthday. He called me up. He said, hey, get ready. I'm going to send you a pic where we're at. Now, I thought about that all day, and I'm like, how many customers that I have would actually do that? And it just kind of took me back. And I said, this guy's a friend. I mean, I know I've talked to him about other things. I'm doing my job, and he knows that as far as upselling, whatever, but it's more than that now. And he had some tragedy in his life where his son was killed on the, he was what do you call them? Security. Yeah. And he got banged with a gun. I don't, and they still don't know why. I don't know what the deal was, but anyway, Danny's a great guy. And I remember I called him up when that happened. He says, Mark, this is what happened. Can we just put things on hold? He was such a gentleman, and he's really a cool guy. Now, one of his vices, maybe I ought to figure out how to do it. What's that game that's Call of Duty or something? Yeah, he's into that. He does that to relax.
Wind
But
down.
yeah. Because he's got a lot of irons in the fire to make things happen. But because during COVID, I would call him and he said, "Hey, tell that guy to call me back." And the one day he was figuring out who's going to stay and who's going to go. Man, that's not fun doing that stuff. But anyway, I just thought I'd share that with you. And that to me is a unique customer. And he's more
That's
than
a
that.
one of a kind
Yeah.
person.
That's a rare quality for him to
Right.
even do that. He just called
Right.
me and I could tell
Right.
he was somewhere. He says,
Right.
"Yeah, I'm
Baby,
in
on
Europe."
a talk show. Can I call you back? Okay, sorry.
I love that.
I mean,
No,
I'm sorry.
that's being
I'm on this
authentic.
thing. I'm on a
He's
radio show, and I gotta.
he's doing his
call.
job. I
Yeah.
love it. But I think that's cool that he did that, and I just wanted to share it with you. And Charles threw out another comment here. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Charles. But one of the things we talked about, and Tom mentioned it, and I got to share this with you. This is a gentleman. His name's Ray Dice. This is out of Kent Walker's book, and Ray is an umpire on the high school level and high level showcase fastball, softball. So he says, if you don't love the game and you're not willing to live the game, you're cheating with yourself and your fellow umpires by umpiring it. And this is pretty cool about like leadership. There are 3 teams involved in every game. The team wearing blue, which is the umpires, is by far the smallest in numbers. So we all need to be the best teammates that we can possibly be. And that goes back to treating people with dignity and respect. Because we all came from somewhere. We started from somewhere, like Tom's story. There are people, I found that the more successful they are, if they're a good person, the nicer they are. They understand what you're trying to do. They don't make fun of you.
Right.
And then there's the naysayers that are out there. And I think we all struggle with that at times. But I just thought I'd share that with you.
I mean,
book
was naysayers. I ignore them.
Yeah.
I mean, who needs them? So what? No what? I didn't mean to interrupt your
No. But that's why I want to get Ken on here at some point, Tom Ginn, because I think he's got a lot to offer. And
yeah, Tom, you said something there. Don't let them influence. They influence you or make an impact to you when your ego's in the way.
Isn't that the truth? Yep.
Yeah, your ego's in the way. When you don't let the ego, it's their problem. It's their view and their perception or whatever. And we just let that go. It's like water off the duck's back.
Right.
And be empathetic, and we all look at this world differently, right?
It doesn't cost anything to be nice. My father used to say that nothing at all to be nice. You don't have to necessarily agree, but and if you do find yourself in a situation where, and he used to preach to my brother and I, never talk religion or politics with people. You'll have fewer friends when you leave the room than when you came in. But this was like 40 years ago. This is not this. He didn't say this, the last 5 years.
Right.
It doesn't cost anything to be nice, and and he says, never be the first one to say something, and never, like you, I think, Mark, you'd mentioned this, never insist on having the last word.
Right. It's
because
not worth it.
Those words could haunt you. I mean, if you get into a hostile, heated argument, he always used to preach the 24 and 48 hour rule. I mean, if you have to say something that you think you may regret later, wait 24 hours or 48 hours, and chances are you'll never say it at all. But I've heard that, that from the pulpit, they used to preach on Sunday mornings that words are the most dangerous weapon on earth because they have started wars.
Yes.
They've gotten people killed.
And religious wars at that. How about that? Right.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great point, Tom, because the other day in my 7-game rant,
right,
as I was taking care of myself with hydration and other things out there, but I had an umpire come up to me and he apologized. He was a coach. And he came up and said, "Hey, I'm sorry for giving you a hard time out there. I know you're humping it and busting. I just get passionate." And I called the kid safe, and he said he was out. And And I just smiled and I said, "You umpired?" He used to. And he said, "Well, yeah." And I said, "Well, you ought to know better. I mean, think about it. I'm here for the kids. I mean, in the great scheme of things, what does it matter if he's out or safe?" And, he kind of thought about it, walked away, and, he
And
came
that's
up.
the thing, like a lot of these coaches and parents of their kids, and they have I
Right.
used to have a youth sports photography business.
Oh my goodness! I bet you have some stories.
Oh, I got stuff that
now they give them these big
and
rings.
everything else.
Big rings is what they give them. Oh, you ought to see these people, like the parents. If you want that ring, you're going to have to earn it. And I'm like, oh my God, you're putting so much pressure on these kids. Let them enjoy the moment.
Yeah, and let the kids know that it's a game. Yeah, there may be calls that go against you, right or wrong. It's the call. What can you learn from it? How do you respond to it versus make those learning lessons, not anger and I'm going to get even and I'm going to get back at you. I'm going to jump in your face. And that's what we've been taught in our culture. Versus what can I take from this? I wish parents would do that. I saw some things with parents and how they talk to their kids and their coaches. And
oh wow, yeah, I experienced it this weekend.
I'm observing this, right?
Yeah.
So
it can get nasty. What you hear a parent say when their child strikes out, and I'm talking anywhere from 12, 13, 14, 15.
Ooh.
It's just like you kind of go, wow, really? That person didn't go up there to strike out. That wasn't the goal or objective, and you can't hold it against them. And I think what Tom mentions and what I do with younger kids is explain the concept of the game and the rules within the game and who interprets the rules. And, I had a catcher that was up the line. I said, it didn't happen yet, but right now you are obstructing the runner because you are way up the line. If there is a play at the plate, let me tell you what's going to happen. He's going to be safe. And here's why. And he thanked me for explaining it to him. I said, if you stay back here where you should be, you'll be fine. But you can't go up the line, and it's interesting, and just like runners, sometimes the older they get, they want to run over a fielder, which no, that's a no. That's automatic out ejection if they do dip the shoulder and all that craziness. The older guys have a tendency to do that. So, yeah.
Well, part of your role, I would think, on the diamond, Mark, is you're a teacher.
Yes. Whether you like it or not, you really are
a teacher, right?
Yeah, you are. What's a balk? What isn't a balk?
Right.
All that fun stuff. And yeah, people scream it and you can't do that.
You taught me the infield fly rule, for crying out loud, about a year ago.
Hey, we had one yesterday too, and it's just fun to watch these dad coaches when you say, infield fly, batters out. You don't really have to yell all that, and runners can advance at their own risk. Oh, it's hilarious.
Got it.
So, Tom, what do you see happening? So to elevate your profits, what do you see happening in real estate which no one can really predict any with certainty? That's the most important thing. There might be trends or things we could look back on the past, but there's a lot of people out there that are own real estate that may have just recently bought or looking to buy real estate. What's your gut?
Here's my take. I have my ear to the ground every day. I talk with and study the markets and talk with a number of peers and mentors in my market and then around the country. There seems to be a lot of confusion between what the media, certain platforms of the media is projecting. We don't think interest rates are going to go much higher than they are right now. It depends what day of the week it is. They might be at 5.3. They might be at 5.7. We don't think they're going to go to 6. And if they do, that's about as high as they're going to go. There is so much equity in all of our homes, your home, my home, that the chance, there is no way that a market crash can happen, because if the bottom were to fall out, all of us have so much equity. The vast majority of homeowners in this country have so much equity in their house. We can sell our homes before they're foreclosed and probably walk away with a profit of some level. So that because the lending guidelines were changed in 2007, 2008, when the real estate had the mortgage industry had such a major problem the last time. So the one thing that's still going well in this market, there aren't as many offers for every home that goes on the market. There are fewer buyers, but fewer buyers. Instead of having 15 offers on a home now, you might have 2 to 5. And because of the interest rates where they are, heck, 10 years ago, a 5.3 mortgage rate was something people would stand in line for. I think we got very spoiled almost to the lowest end mortgage rates of all time, and a number of us would preach to our customers or our prospects that this is this ship is going to sail sooner or later, and we don't know why, but it's going to sail sooner or later. But there's no chance of a crash because we have so much equity in our homes. Instead of homes selling in 2 hours, they may take 2 weeks now in terms of days on market, and we're just fine. But it's the misinformation that upsets me or concerns me about what certain platforms of the media, or just simply people that just don't understand or know what they're talking about.
Well, I'm going to talk about most people can't comprehend is I went through super high mortgage rates back in the, let's see, 80,
79, 80,
79
81,
through 84, 83, that range. I had a mortgage at almost 13%.
Well, but the industry found ways around that then. And the industry would find ways. It's not pretty, but they would find ways around that today. I had an adjustable rate back then, and I made out. I am happy to say I made out better than when I started.
Yeah, and then you had some of the things that they get cracked down on is negative amortization. You're going backwards to make your payment affordable. Some crazy things happened back in the day. So, but we've taken things for granted.
Right.
5 or 6%.
Right.
It's still a bargain in relationship.
People are just buying less house. That's what's happened, especially these young people or first-time home buyers. They're still on the market. They're still approved for a certain amount. They're just buying less house right now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what a lot of our younger people get out of school and college. They want to start where mom and dad took 30 to 40 years to get to, right?
Well, I mean, maybe a couple of years ago, they might have gotten a little closer to that goal, but the market is balancing, evening out now. Yeah. And we still have a shortage of homes for sale on the market. We have in some markets between a 2 and 3 month supply of homes for sale, and a normal market is between 4 and 6.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Well, guys, I tell you what, we could
keep going. Do you know that it's 7-11? Do you know that we've exceeded our time frame? I'm not complaining. I think it's great. And people are out here talking. Robert Brooker, I love this. He said, exiting my positions last month, I tried something different, something instinctual, and it worked fast, and I closed out with extra profit to boot. That's cool, man. And that's what it's all about, finding yourself. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to make a dollar out there. Some people do it virtually, some people do it online, some people do it face to face. I humble myself because I by no means know it all. I mean, we live in a society where things are like constantly screaming at the speed of light. I don't even know how you keep up with everything. It's, you guys have been in business longer than me. So, from real estate to, financial services.
I just surround myself with people that are much more smarter than I am. That's the key,
absolutely.
Right?
Well, that's always been my mantra.
Right.
I don't profess to be the genius. I don't want to be. I'd rather hang around.
I left that ego back in Orange, Massachusetts at that small radio station.
Yeah, my comeback to that is, Tom, I always say, I checked my ego at the door.
At the door. Yes, sir.
I let it go. So
you said something very, very important. It's like, was it Jim Rohn that said it, that our net worth is the average of the 5 people we hang around with?
Isn't that
right?
And you know what? On not the book that you held up, but there's another one that one of my real estate coaches has got me reading now. But there's another theory that says, and the five people you hang around with, the five people that they hang around, each of them, you're a product of what that theory and those habits and those I said, man, there's something to file away.
Yeah. And then you get into that mastermind set, where you're hanging around a group of people, it's always a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to
something about that.
Go ahead.
Who you hang around with, myself growing and I've had great mentors, and some I've learned didn't recognize what they were teaching me. And then down the road, start becoming aware of what they really brought to me. And then I want to pay it back. But I remember in Toronto, meeting in a workshop with Bob Proctor. I knew Bob personally, was in his home, those type of things. And we were at this event. He called it Matrix. And there was a small group for a week of training with Bob Proctor. And people from all over the world would fly in. And this wasn't an inexpensive thing. I made the investment to go, but this is what I found out. I sat at a table. He moved us around with tables all around, doing different workshops and different projects during our work there for a week.
Right.
Every table I sat with, there was a billionaire.
Wow.
And guess what I found out? You would never know.
Right. Right.
And the ones that said they have it all don't have anything.
Right. I'm not
that
surprised.
Was humbling. That goes, and these people gave. They shared, that being part of my network, people I've leaned into over the last 7 years.
Right.
And so, like, who you hang with and who they hang with, I think is so important.
Yeah.
And you'll find the authentic people out there.
My father used to say, tell me who your friends are, I'll tell you who you are. And it's so true. Tell me who your friends are, I'll tell you who you are. My father said, if he said it once, he said it 500 times as I was growing up.
Right.
So, that was humbling in itself. The scene.
I bet sitting around, being switched around to those various tables with those people. Heck yes.
Out of that, I've created some long-term relationship, friends, not just nothing about business. It's friends that we can call up. I'm still doing a mastermind with 3 people that I met. We meet every Sunday morning for the last 5 years.
Right. Way to go.
That's
I just
awesome.
want to soak up some of the knowledge in that room.
Yeah.
And we learn from each other. We support each other through the trials and tribulations. They bring wisdom that we don't see. They see us differently than we see ourselves, right?
Sure.
So it's so important to have, I believe, a mastermind or a group of people that are there to support you.
I want to be in a room of people that have more knowledge than I do, because I'm going to walk away with the biggest prize.
Absolutely.
And my journal, right? Mark Gassert.
Yeah, I would ask
the one
for
Tom
autographs.
Ginn sent me.
I'm telling you, man, I would ask for autographs. Hey, can you sign this? I mean, I didn't know, like my brother-in-law, if you met him, he's very unassuming, but so successful. And his famed comment to me was, most people look at ways to, save money. I look at ways to make money.
Right.
That's my approach, and it always has been. And when it came to business, man, the guy knew what he was talking about.
Right.
I even helped him put bins on farmers' lands too. I would look at the different things he would do. And I remember I was on a 30-foot ladder. He says, yeah, it's a little chilly up there, a little windy. How do you feel up there? I'm like, well, I want to do this for the rest of my life. That's for sure. He just kind of laughed. But yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff.
Fellows, I've enjoyed this. It's funny how things sometimes, hit you between the eyes when you're least looking for it. But I really enjoyed being with you tonight.
So here we are, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you all for joining us, because we know you have other things to do. There is a real world out there, and you have lives and families, and some of you have significant others, wives, whatever the case may be. But our mystery guest tonight was Tom Gavin. And, so we got
the best of both worlds. We talked about radio, real estate, and, what's going on in the world today in regards to business. Please forgive me, my voice. I know everybody's like, what is wrong with Mark? Well, it's called 7 games on Saturday and 3 on Sunday. So I don't do that all the time, but it was a major tournament, So
there you go. All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
You got it. Tom, thanks for jumping in.
Good. Can we put him in the green room? And if you need to leave, you leave. Just make sure you tip the lady in there, because you've had enough coffee. Because
that's
Lord
right.
Knows, it looks like you got jet fuel.
Hey, I got to do a plug. We're here. We're business. We're entrepreneurs.
Sure.
You want real energy?
Here we go.
Mark and I, seriously, if you really want a sustainable, nice, Russ,
right?
Get a hold of Mark.
How do I get some of that stuff?
Just get a hold of Mark.
I'll get a hold of Mark.
This is great stuff, and it's healthy. Right. It's not a caffeine rush.
Okay.
Amazing. So anyway, we did our commercial. Thanks.
I'll tip the coat check girl.
Okay. Hey, there you go.
Right?
That's nice.
Yeah, just get a hold of Mark. He'll handle it.
I like that.
All right, fellas.
God bless you, Tom. Thanks.
Let's do it again very soon.
You got it, sir.
You got it.
Okay.
Thank
you. Good night now.
All right, night. So, Tom, there you have it. The mystery guest, the man himself. He appeared and did a great job. Tom Gavin's always a lot of fun to talk to, and I love talking to him about radio, and I know he loves baseball, so that's always fun. But I thought tonight he brought some real value, and I know he's got more radio stories out there, I'm sure, than you and I could even imagine. And, now he's doing real estate. That's the kind of a wild thing about it, what he's doing right now, he and his wife. And, a lot of guys probably wouldn't be doing what he's doing right now, that are his age. And then Tom's not ancient and by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, I was like, seeing how you brought that up, Mark, we'll have to talk about that. I've got a thing here. Most people that hit the greatest amount of success are 65 and older.
Yeah. And Colonel Sanders, man, that's why I know there's hope for me, because if the Colonel can do it.
Exactly. So age has nothing to do with it. I think just accumulation of life and a different discipline, as we talk about, changes everything. And when we get aged, our egos get readjusted too, right? So we talked about today. So Mark, I appreciate giving Tom a call, and he's an awesome guy. I love his energy. He's the type of guy we could sit all day and drink iced tea or beer or whatever.
Right. I mean, he's just got so many of these stories, and I'd love to talk to him more about the radio back in the day, how you sold advertisements and what you had to do. And like he was saying, then we had to get people to come in at 5 or 6 a.m. to do their show. And I could just picture him there. Hey, Tom, can you go down there? The guy's not there. I don't know what happened. He was out drinking last night. I could see him getting on there. And Tom, as a young kid, just ranting and raving on the radio, probably talking about, advertisements and, oh, we're going to play a record now and I'll come back to another advertisement. I could just see him doing that, But, that's how it was. It was like the Wild West show back then, 70s and 80s.
Yeah. Wolfman Jack, I've talked to Tom about it. I remember when I was a kid, made a crystal radio and grounded it to my bed frame on my bed and a little tiny speaker and just listened to Wolfman Jack, I think in St. Louis or someplace.
Oh, wow.
And, this was back in the mid 60s, man, just catching him and get that frequency, dial in with my own little crystal radio. He was my favorite back in the day. But anyway, we can get off on a whole different tangent. Let's sort of wrap this up. And
you got it. You got it. And as always, if you want to know, you can see right here and above Tom that there's that word ASEA and redox, and we can talk molecules, and we can talk energy, and we can talk nutrition, and we can talk cellular health. I'm being a little intentional. You need to check it out. If I didn't have these type of tools available to me other than H2O, I don't know if I could have gotten through what I got through this past weekend. So kind of help me out, guys.
Yeah.
Other than my voice, but
with that all said, Mark, but seriously, that's the reason I'm in this, is that, we live in a culture of people that are chronically ill. A lot of it can be prevented. And it's really understanding how our bodies work in the biochemistry. And this company's done something no other company in the world could replicate or duplicate. Right. And I encourage people to look at it. This company is changing the health science industry. Right. In a very significant way. That's why I'm involved. I'm in that place, in a sweet spot in business. When a company's already got the groundwork done, now we're ready to grow. I'm going to take advantage of it for the right reasons. So I missed some other opportunities in my life. I'm not missing this one.
I hear you.
Yeah.
And I wasn't fortunate enough to run with my dad and get IT&T stock back in the day. He was smart enough to do that. Thanks to someone harassing him, there he was, a steel worker, made that purchase, and that put him at that millionaire category. That's kind of wild stuff, Yeah. But that's so far and few between. He was just lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Mark,
you want to close it out here, sir? I got it.
You got all the controls.
I know. I got the tools here. So again, everybody, this is Mark Gasser, Tom Ginn, Elevate Your Profits. And hope you enjoyed it. It was an impromptu. We brought a mystery guest on tonight, but I hope we brought some value to you and shed some light on some subjects that are near and dear to our hearts, whether it's business, personal development. We hope you continue to listen. And most important of all, take a look at, how is your cellular health? You're going to hear me say that a lot. And I will just say that, to me, cellular health is your true wealth. With that, I'm going to close this thing out, Tom.
You got it. Have a great evening, Mark.
All right. Thank you.
All right.